guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome also to the first in I don't know how long series that I think I'm going to start doing, which is to bring more art into the actual channel. We've done a lot of card design and whatnot, and I thought that, and I'm going to definitely keep doing that, especially in the Sunday lives, because I think that's where most of the folks who are there sort of come from. But I did want to get, I don't know, I've been in the mood to get back more into doing some painting, which, if you've been watching me for a long time may have come up in past stories, but I started out doing watercolor cards, and I've been really interested in getting back into watercolor. So I bought a couple things from Blick, and I thought we could just open them together. Well, I bought this from Eden, but um, and I actually got a second order from Blick that we may look at shortly, because I have thoughts for this, which is just an empty watercolor pan. The interesting thing is, like, this is actually a mirror image, so I guess it's just like a printing error, but it's a really kind of interesting printing error. Like, if you flip it over, you see the correct watercolor half pans. But anyway, this is just an empty box. And the other thing that's interesting is on their website, they said this held 52 pans, but the box says 48, which makes sense. So let's see what we get. I'm curious if they include all the half pans, but I was attracted to this because one, I wanted to do sort of a 2024 new palette setup. 'Cause I have a bunch of palettes, but um, my ones from Tubes aren't particularly well documented. And they had this one that has this really cool galaxy pattern, so that's what I was interested in. I think these are all basically just sort of your standard larger size palettes. So it's metal of some sort. I think historically tin, but whether they still are, I'm not sure. They might be steel these days. And then it's enameled, which makes it easier to mix on. Enamel doesn't quite beat up the way a plastic palette would. So anyway, so you have your four like really big mix areas, and oh, it comes with all the pans, and then you have some other ones here. And this main piece on most palettes will just figure out how to do it. Here we go. We'll just sort of lift out. And then there are more mixing areas on the bottom. This one is kind of tight, so maybe I'll try it from the other side. I don't actually use this feature of palettes ever, but here we go. So it does come out, and then this one's not, there's not one here because there is a ring on the bottom of this, which is another thing I never use. But you have three pretty big mixing areas, so if you did want to take this out, I tend not to. This seems pretty stable. The pans aren't bumping around. Typically, I'll just leave them in, but these brackets um, essentially will hold them in place. And then you have just a standard little half pan. And you can take, I want to may do this, but you can actually use a label maker to put the actual label on the side. And I think it would be good to do that so that it would be easier to track what paint was actually in here. But basically, over the years, I have the original mixing set of core that I want to kind of decant down because I never use it, and then I also have a bunch of Daniel Smith. So I'm thinking I'll do like core on one side and Daniel Smith on the other, and technically, um, so I'm thinking that's where I'm going. Picked up a few colors I didn't have recently of the Daniel Smith. Well, this is interesting. It's a little wonky because you can see these are a little um sort of rising up. I wonder if that's happening on both sides. Yeah, they're not like a precise fit, essentially. Yeah, which is fine. I mean, the other thing you can do if you so choose is you can just use magnets to hold these on in, but um, typically it's not an issue. They tend to pop up more when there's nothing in them, obviously. But anyway, really liking the paint job on this, which is pretty much why I wanted to get it. The other thing I wanted to check, if I can find it, I have to grab it. But I got some stickers from my friend Annie, and I think they would fit quite nicely here. So that we could do some stickers, or at least do a label here to just say that this what the brands are, and essentially what's in the palette. But that's an empty palette now. I don't know that I'll do a I may do a video explaining my palette, but the other thing I picked up was the studio palette for Cotman, which is Winsor and Newton's student grade brand. And I like Cotman because it's really easy to find. And I like their palettes because they're usually slightly more innovative than other stuff you'll run into. If I can open this and not destroy it. This came from Blick. And I'm gonna mangle the box a little bit, probably. There we go. And there are two versions. Oh, it comes with literature. There are two versions of this palette. This is, I believe, the European version, and there's also a US version. There's some literature uh just printed, not actually swatched or anything. So we'll probably have to wind up doing a swatch or walking through it. These are the 40 colors in the line, basically. And it looks pretty well balanced. I became a fan of them just because but they're kind of a more natural-ish brand. Like they're sort of a lower chroma kind of paint, which is partially because they're student grade, but also Winsor& and Newton just has sort of a classic vibe in terms of a lot of their color selection. So this is the palette, and I really like how it's rounded. Um, it's sort of embossed with the logo. Also, if you're and this is plastic, so this would beat up if we tried to mix on it. So one of the ways you can fix that is if you have a glue stick, you can just rub that on, and that'll generally make it easier. So I may do that at some point. But this is quite large, so we have four pretty big mixing areas. And then in the front, you have eight littler mixing areas. It's too bad there's not I really like what Core did with their packaging, where they have a lot of, it's sort of bubble themed, but they have a lot of little ones. Anyway, the thing rattling around was a Cotman paintbrush, which is a size 3, which is pretty small paintbrush, as you can see. It's protected with essentially, I believe it's gum arabic that they dip the brushes in so that they don't get damaged in transport. It's a fine brush. I have been a fan of the Jerry's ones for a while, and I actually picked up some other brushes coming soon that we'll try out. And in terms of how these don't really lock into place at all, which is interesting. So they're really easy to get in and out. You can buy these in this format or tube formats. I have a lot of tube Totman watercolors that I inherited, which was kind of another reason to get the actual studio palette that can uh, contain all of them. But basically, these are double wrap. So what I want to do is unwrap these and save them, and we can sort of these are in the same, it looks like it's in a very similar order as the instruction sheet, which I appreciate, or not really but you see, like, obviously the configuration is a little bit different, but you've got sort of this essentially Roy G. Biv, well, yellow, red, purple, blue, green. I mean, it's a little not quite color theory. It's like a color theory if you start with yellow. So that takes you through about here are the end of the greens. And I do like how this whole row is basically earth tones, except for like this yellow ochre that just happens to be here. But like the greens stop here. So I like that. So you have sort of your warm colors, your cool colors, and then your earth tones. I think that's kind of a smart layout. But anyway, I won't make you suffer through opening all of these. But I do like this. I think this is a quite a nice palette. And um, I guess I should also comment that there are actually 45 half pans, so they're duplicates of a couple really common colors and white and black. So anyway, I'm quite happy with this. This does go on sale, which is really the reason I bought it. It was sub $50 when I picked it up. So for that price, it's you know a palette like this. Whoop, I'm dropping on things on the floor, but just your sort of standard palette is probably going to cost you about $20. The Meaton's ones are very economical, and then they go up from there. So I don't know. I really always liked the Winsor and Newton palettes. like the actual boxes they put their paint in. So we will swatch it out and check it out. I'm very curious how these will perform against the Grabby watercolors. I think they did sort of not really worthwhile to like compare student and pro grade paint because it's sort of like, well, they're in completely different price points. Like these half pans are $3 and like a pro paint would be like 15. So it's sort of like I don't know, it's the same as like comparing budget stereo equipment with pro grade or, audiophile stereo equipment. Anyway, thanks for checking this out. If you watch this video, I will probably be coming back with a second one within the next couple of days to do the remainder of the Blick stuff, and then we will probably going to do some color theory, some painting. That'll sort of be within this particular playlist. And then potentially, if we basically, my goal is to use sort of small paintings on my cards as ephemera. So basically, if that happens, those will tend to be more on the card videos, but I'll try to link between them when it makes sense. Anyway, talk to you guys later, and thanks for checking this out. Have a great rest of your weekend.